in Isaiah and Daniel. The first one is on page 764 in the Pew Bible if you want to follow along. Isaiah 46, 8 through 11.
Preach it, sister.
Remember this, fix it in mind, take it to heart, you rebels. Remember the former things, those of long ago. I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me. I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times, what is still to come. I say, my purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please. From the east I summon a bird of prey, from a far-off land a man to fulfill my purpose. What I have said, that will I bring about. What I have planned, that will I do.
Amen.
The second reading is on page 923 in the book of Daniel, chapter 2, the whole chapter. In the second year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His mind was troubled, and he could not sleep. So the king summoned the magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers to tell him what he had dreamed. When they came in and stood before the king, he said to them, I have had a dream that troubles me, and I want to know what it means. Then the astrologers answered the king in Aramaic, O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will interpret it. The king replied to the astrologers, This is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces and your houses turned into piles of rubble. But if you tell me the dream and explain it, you will receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. So tell me the dream and interpret it for me. Once more they replied, Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will interpret it. Then the king answered, I am certain that you are trying to gain time, because you realize that this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me the dream, there is just one penalty for you. You have conspired to tell me misleading and wicked things, hoping the situation will change. So then tell me the dream, and I will know that you can interpret it for me. The astrologers answered the king, There is not a man on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. What the king asks is too difficult. No one can reveal it to the king except the gods, and they do not live among men. This made the king so angry and furious that he ordered the execution of all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree was issued to put the wise men to death. The men were sent to look for Daniel and his friends to put them to death. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, had gone out to put to death the wise men of Babylon, Daniel spoke to him with wisdom and tact. He asked the king's officer, Why did the king issue such a harsh decree? Arioch explained the matters to Daniel. At this, Daniel went to the king and asked for time so that he might interpret the dream for him. Then Daniel returned to his house and explained the matter to his friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. He urged them to plead for mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that he and his friends might not be executed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. During the night, the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven and said, Praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. He changes times and seasons and sets up kings and deposes them. He gives wisdom to the king and knowledge to the discerning. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank and praise you, O God of my fathers. You have given me wisdom and power. You have made known to me what we asked of you. You have made known to us the dream of the king. Then Daniel went to Arioch, whom the king had appointed to execute the wise men of Babylon, and said to him, Do not execute the wise men of Babylon. Take me to the king, and I will interpret his dream for him. Arioch took Daniel to the king at once and said, "I have found a man among the exiles of Judea who can tell the king what his dream means." The king asked Daniel, also called Belteshazzar, "Are you able to tell me what I saw in my dream and interpret it?" Daniel replied, "No wise man, enchanter, magician, or diviner can explain to the king the mystery he has asked about, but there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. He has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the days to come. Your dream and the vision that passed through your mind as you lay on your bed are these. As you were lying there, O king, your mind turned to things to come, and the revealer of mysteries showed you what is going to happen. As for me, this mystery has been revealed to me, not because I have greater wisdom than other living men, but so that you, O king, may know the interpretation and that you may understand what went through your mind. You looked, O king, and there before you stood a large statue, an enormous, dazzling statue, awesome in appearance. The head of the statue was made of pure gold, its chest and arms of silver, its belly and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of baked clay. While you were watching, a rock was cut out, but not by human hands. It struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and smashed them. Then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were broken to pieces at the same time and became like chaff on a threshing floor in the summer. The wind swept them away without leaving a trace, but the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth. This was the dream, and now we will interpret it to the king. You, O king, are the King of kings. The God of heaven has given you domain and power and might and glory. In your hands he has placed mankind and the beasts of the field and the birds of the air. Wherever they live, he has made you ruler over them all. You are that head of gold. After you, another kingdom will rise, inferior to yours. Next, a third kingdom, one of bronze, will rule over the whole earth. Finally, there will be a fourth kingdom, strong as iron, for iron breaks and smashes everything. And as iron breaks things to pieces, so it will crush and break all the others. Just as you saw that the feet and toes were partly of baked clay and partly of iron, so this will be a divided kingdom. Yet it will have some of the strength of iron in it, even as you saw iron mixed with clay. As the toes were partly iron and partly clay, so this kingdom will be partly strong and partly brittle. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united, any more than iron mixes with clay. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. This is the meaning of the vision of the rock cut out of a mountain, but not by human hands, a rock that broke the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold to pieces. The great God has shown the king what will take place in the future. The dream is true and the interpretation is trustworthy. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell prostrate before Daniel and paid him honor and ordered that an offering and incense be presented to him. The king said to Daniel, "Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings and a revealer of mysteries, for you were able to reveal this mystery." Then the king placed Daniel in a high position and lavished many gifts on him. He made him ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed him in charge of all its wise men. Moreover, at Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego administrators over the province of Babylon, while Daniel himself remained at the royal court.
Well, as I was praying about what to talk about today, I felt like It's time to switch gears. We've been doing this study on inside out, and I think it's time to talk about something else. So, for the summer, we're gonna look at what does the Bible say about end times. What does the Bible have to say about the future, the close of the age, and the coming of Jesus? And I know a lot of us have read a lot of stuff about it. I want to encourage you to put a lot of that stuff aside, to just not focus on that, but let's just read the Scriptures. Because so often people come up with ideas about things that they've got from other places, and they don't really match what you find in the Scriptures if you just read the Scriptures. If you just read the Scriptures from the front to the back, what would you conclude? Now, it's important to say, first of all, that there are mysteries. There are things that God knows that He hasn't told us. What a mystery is from the biblical point of view is not something that's mysterious or a question mark. It's something that is information we just haven't been privy to. Something that's hidden or obscured. And the word apocalypse means to take the cover off. So what God does is He reveals things to us to give us information. There's a verse in Deuteronomy 29. It's easy to remember because it's Deuteronomy 29:29. Deuteronomy 29:29. It says this: "The secret things belong to Yahweh our God. The things revealed belong to us and our children." So there's lots of information that God has not chosen to tell us. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of them we can imagine. Some of them He's told us. He doesn't want us to know. There's places, like in the book of Revelation, where there's angels that are writing down or just describing information, and John is going to write it down, and he said, don't record that part. So we know we don't have all the information. That's important for us. Whatever it is we think we understand, we don't have the whole picture. But God knows it all. Amen. God knows it all. You know, there's some people who question whether God knows the future. We just read a great story, a great account. It's a historical account, something that happened, of Nebuchadnezzar having a dream and requiring his wise men to tell him the dream so that he could know, they could interpret the dream. You got a bunch of guys, you don't know really if they're just quacks, if they're just making things up. How are you going to tell if they can really interpret accurately the dream? So Nebuchadnezzar said, I know a way. I'm not going to tell them the dream. If they can tell me the dream, then I know they have the ability to interpret its meaning. So that's what he did. And of course, they knew right away they were in trouble because they couldn't. They couldn't tell the king his dream. And they said, nobody's ever asked a wise person to do that before. Nobody knows that kind of information. And Nebuchadnezzar was firm. He said, look, you know what I said. And I'm standing firm on my word. If you can't tell me the dream, then what good are you? My command is if you can't tell me the dream and the interpretation, your life is done. And so he sent his men to go out and kill all the wise men of Babylon. It's interesting. They got a whole list of them. They got astrologers. They got people that are doing soothsaying. They got people who are looking at animal parts, trying to do divination to see the future. There are people who are supposedly in touch with the occult. There are people who are just wise and know a lot of stuff. None of them could come up with what Nebuchadnezzar dreamed in his bed in the middle of the night. Not surprisingly, right? So they come to Daniel, and being a wise man, he said, what's the urgency about this? What's going on? He finds out, and it says in my translation that he asked for time, like he was stalling for time, but that's not what he says. That's not what the Hebrew says. He asked for an appointed time. He made an appointment. King, when do you want to meet with me so that I can answer this question? So the king set a time, and Daniel and his 3 friends interceded fervently with God because they knew that their only hope was Yahweh. Yahweh could reveal to them what they couldn't know on their own. God is the revealer of hidden things. He's the revealer of mysteries. And when Daniel comes in before the king says, Daniel, are you able to tell me the dream and its interpretation? And Daniel said, there's no man who could tell you the dream or the interpretation. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. And he has revealed to me what you dreamt. And then he told the dream, and he told the interpretation. And the king was so impressed, so undone by what just took place, that he got down on the floor in front of Daniel. The king did. He got down on the floor. He prostrated himself before Daniel. And he said, your God is the true God. Now, the first thing we got to ask when we're looking at prophecy is, does God really know the future? You know, there are a lot of people today that are saying, God really doesn't know the future. God knows some things, but he doesn't know how things are going to turn out. It's like, have you read the book? Have you read the book? I'm just going to go through a few passages just from a few chapters in Isaiah, from Isaiah 40 through chapter 48. These are selected verses from Isaiah's writings. Now, Isaiah wrote about 700 BC. And this is from chapter 40, verse 14. With whom did God consult, and who gave him understanding? Who taught him in the path of justice, and taught him knowledge, and informed him of the way of understanding? Behold, the nations are like a drop from a bucket, and are regarded as a speck of dust on the scales. Behold, he lifts up the islands like they were dust. Even Lebanon is not enough to burn, nor its beasts enough for a burnt offering. Lebanon was where the forests of cedar were, that were world famous. It says, all the nations are as nothing before him. They are regarded by him as less than nothing. To whom then will you liken God? Or what likeness will you compare with him? It says, as for the idol, a craftsman casts it, a goldsmith plates it with gold, a silversmith fashions chains of silver. He who is too impoverished for such an offering selects a tree that does not rot. He seeks out for himself a skilled craftsman to prepare an idol that will not totter. Do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been declared to you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth that he who sits above the vault of the earth and its inhabitants are like grasshoppers? Who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent to dwell in? He it is who reduces rulers to nothing, who makes the judges of the earth meaningless. Scarcely have they been planted, scarcely have they been sown, scarcely has their stock taken root on the earth, and he merely blows on them, and they wither, and the storm carries them away like stubble. To whom will you liken me, that I should be his equal, says the Holy One. Lift up your eyes on high, and see who has created these stars, the ones who leads forth their host by number, and calls them by name. Because of the greatness of his might and the strength of his power, not one of them is missing. Why do you say, O Jacob, and assert, O Israel, my way is hidden from Yahweh, and the justice due me escapes the notice of my God? Do you not know? Have you not heard? the everlasting God, Yahweh, the creator of the ends of the earth, he does not become weary or tired. His understanding is inscrutable. His understanding is inscrutable. And from chapter 41, present your case, the Lord says, Yahweh says. Bring forth your strong arguments, the King of Jacob says. Let them bring forth and declare to us what is going to take place. As for the former events, declare what they were, that we may consider them and know their outcome, or announce to us what is coming. Declare the things that are going to come afterward, that we may know that you are God's. Indeed, do good or evil, do anything, that we may anxiously look about us in fear together. Behold, you are of no account, and your work amounts to nothing. Anyone who chooses you is an abomination. But I have aroused someone from the north, and he has come. From the rising of the sun, he will call on my name. He will come upon rulers as he will tread upon rulers like they were mud, even as a potter treads clay. Who has declared this from the beginning, that we might know? Or from former times, that we may say, he is right? Surely there was no one who declared. Surely there was no one who proclaimed. Surely there was no one who heard your words. Formerly I said to Zion, behold, here they are. To Jerusalem I will give a messenger of good news. But when I look, there's no one. There's no counselor among them, who if I ask can give an answer. Behold, all of them are false. Their works are worthless. Their molten images are wind and emptiness. Behold my servant whom I uphold, my chosen one in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him. He will bring forth justice to the nations. He will not cry out or raise his voice. He will not make his voice heard in the street. A bruised reed he will not break, and a dimly burning wick he will not extinguish. He will faithfully bring forth justice. He will not be disheartened or crushed until he establishes justice in the earth, and the coastlands will wait expectantly for his law. Now, who is that about? That was about Jesus, 700, almost 800 years later. Thus says God, Yahweh God, who created the heavens and stretched them out, who spread out the earth and its offspring, who gives breath to the people on it and spirit to those who walk in it. I am Yahweh. I have called you in righteousness. I will also hold you by the hand and watch over you. I will appoint you as a covenant for the people, as a light to the nations, to open blind eyes, to bring out prisoners from the dungeon, and those who dwell in darkness from the prison. I am Yahweh, that is my name. I will not give my glory to another, nor my praise to graven images. Behold, the former things have come to pass. Behold, I declare new things. Before they spring forth, I declare them to you. And in chapter 44, thus says Yahweh, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, Yahweh of hosts, I am the first and I am the last, and there is no God besides me. Who's like me? Let him proclaim and declare it. Yes, let him recount it to me in order. From the time that I established the ancient nation, let them declare to them the things that are coming, the events that are going to take place. Do not tremble and do not be afraid. Have I not long since announced it to you and declared it? You're my witnesses. Is there any God besides me? Or is there any other rock? I know not of one. Thus says Yahweh your Redeemer, the one who formed you from the womb. I, Yahweh, am the maker of all things, stretching out the heavens by myself, spreading out the earth all alone, causing the omens of boasters to fail, making fools out of diviners, causing wise men to draw back, turning their knowledge into foolishness, but confirming the word of my servant and confirming the purpose of his messengers. It is I who says of Jerusalem, she will be inhabited, and of the cities of Judah, she shall be built, and I will raise up her ruins again. It is I who says to the depths of the sea, be dried up, and I will make your rivers dry. It is I who says of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and he will perform all my desire. And he declares of Jerusalem, she will be built, and of the temple, your foundation will be laid. Thus says Yahweh to Cyrus his anointed, whom I have taken by the right hand, to subdue nations before him, and to loose the loins of kings, to open doors before him, so that gates will not be shut. I will go before you and make the rough places smooth. I will shatter the doors of bronze and cut through their iron bars. I will give you the treasures of darkness and hidden wealth of secret places, in order that you may know that it is I, Yahweh, the God of Israel, who calls you by name. For the sake of Jacob my servant and Israel my chosen one, I have called you by your name. I have given you a title of honor, though you have not known me. I am Yahweh, there is no other. Besides me there is no God. I will gird you, though you have not known me, that men may know from the rising of the setting to the setting of the sun that there is no one besides me. I am Yahweh, there is no other. Now, Isaiah wrote 700 BC. Cyrus didn't show up on the scene until 540 BC. So it's over 100 years before Cyrus would even be born. Next chapter. Gather yourselves and come. Draw together, you fugitives of the nation. They have no knowledge who carry about their wooden idol and pray to a God who cannot save. Declare and set forth your case. Indeed, let them consult together. Who has announced this from of old? Who has long since declared it? Is it not I, Yahweh? There is no other God besides me, a righteous God and a Savior. There is none beside me. Turn to me and be saved, all the ends of the earth, for I am God, and there is no other. I have sworn by myself. The word has gone forth from my mouth in righteousness, and I will not turn back, that to me every knee will bow, every tongue will swear allegiance. Remember this and be assured. Recall it to mind, you transgressors. Remember the former things long past. For I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is no one like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times things which have not been done. Surely my purpose will be established, and I will accomplish all my good pleasure. Calling a bird of prey from the east, the man of my purpose from a far country. Truly I have spoken, truly I will bring it to pass. I have planned it, surely I will do it. Again, he's talking about Cyrus, who would defeat the Babylonians and set the Jews free, let them go back to their land. Chapter 48. Yahweh of hosts is his name. I declared the former things long ago, and they went forth from my mouth, and I proclaimed them. Suddenly I acted, and they came to pass, because I know that you are obstinate, and your neck is an iron sinew, and your forehead is like bronze. Therefore I declared them to you long ago. Before they took place, I proclaimed them to you, lest you should say, oh, my idol has done them, and my graven image and my molten image have commanded them. You have heard. Look at all this, and you will you not declare it? I proclaim to you new things from this time, even hidden things which you have not known. They are created now and not long ago, and before today you have not heard of them, lest you should say, behold, I knew them. You have not heard, you have not known. Even from long ago your ear has not been open, because I knew that you would deal very treacherously. And you have been called a rebel from birth. For the sake of my name I delay my wrath, and for my praise I restrain it for you, in order not to cut you off. Behold, I have refined you, but not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction. For my own name's sake I will act. For how can my name be profaned, and my glory I will not give to another? Listen to me, O Jacob, even Israel, whom I called. I am he. I am the first, I am also the last. Surely my hand founded the earth, and my right hand spread out the heavens. When I call to them, they stand together. Assemble, all of you, and listen. Who among them has declared these things? Yahweh loves him. He shall carry out his good pleasure on Babylon, and his arm shall be against the Chaldeans. I, even I, have spoken. Indeed, I have called him. I have brought him, and he will make his way successful. Come near to me and listen to this. From the first I have not spoken in secret. From the time it took place, I was there, and now the Lord Yahweh has sent me and his Spirit. Again, I say, have they read the book? Those are just selections from 8 chapters. And the book is full of prophetic declarations from the beginning to the end. I came across an interesting statistic. There's a guy named J. Barton Payne who edited an encyclopedia of prophecy. And he said that 27% of the Bible is predictive prophecy. 27% are things that God declared beforehand that would come to pass. Over 1,800 separate prophecies. And over half of them have already been fulfilled in detail. So it's important for us to see that God does know the future. And God does speak these things out. God declares them before they come to pass, so when they come to pass, we can see who He is. Of all the religions in the world, Jim made the comment that of all the religions in the world, Christianity, the biblical religion, is the only one that is built upon God's coming and doing something for us, God's grace to us. We receive God's grace. All the rest of them, you have to do something. You have to commit some kind of works or do some kind of religious service or do something to get God's favor. Offer sacrifices. Go on a pilgrimage. Do something. All we have to do is receive what God did. Well, prophecy is the same way. Out of all the religions in the world, only biblical Christianity is established, and Judaism is established on the prophetic reality of God knowing the future and declaring things before they come to pass. It's not in the Quran, it's not in the writings of Islam, it's not in the Vedas and the Upanishads of the Hindu religions. It's not in the Shinto holy books or the Tao Te Ching. It's not in any of those religious writings. It's not even in the Wiccan writings that are claiming to be sorcerers and claim to have knowledge of the future, because they can't do it. They can't make predictive prophecy hundreds of years in advance and have it come to pass. Only God can do that. And God has done it. And we have a record of it right here. And we have archaeology that backs up the dating of these things. This was not written after the fact. This was written before these events occurred. So it's important for us to realize who we're dealing with. God is the one who knows the future. God is the one who knows the beginning from the end. And not only does He know it, but He declares it. He determined ahead of time, even before Adam and Eve sinned, He determined ahead of time that He would send Jesus. Jesus is the Lamb that was slain before the foundation of the world. Even in the Garden of Eden, God said that the seed of the woman would crush the head of the serpent. Right there, Genesis 3. So God knows the future. God has declared things in the future. And God is the revealer of mysteries. So we need to know that God is the one who knows everything, that God has not told us everything, but what God has told us is for us. The hidden things belong to Yahweh our God. The things revealed belong to us. There's things revealed in here that God wants us to know. He wants us to understand. Some of it's still mysterious in the sense that not all the information has been laid out. Some of it's going to become clear as it happens. But He wants us to know what it is. He wants us to know so we will be assured that He is with us when we face those times. So we can look at what's going on around us and not be surprised. It talks about that when Jesus returns, He's going to come like a thief in the night. A lot of people have taken that verse out of context. Because in the next chapter He says, you're not in darkness. that he will come like a thief in the night to you. Why does he say that? Because he's told us what's going to happen. He's given us the signs to look for. We won't be surprised. We'll see it happening. We'll know what's going on. But we have to know this. We have to read the book. Let me encourage you, read the book. Don't get your information even from preachers. Read the book. I grew up in a family that was, I had an aunt especially that was really into this stuff. And she gave me all kinds of books with all kinds of charts, with all kinds of information. And I was amazed. And then I read the book. And the book didn't match what it was that she was giving me. The scriptures did not square with what this information was telling me in all the details. I want to challenge us to put aside your preconceived ideas, because maybe they're not all accurate. Let's read the book. Let's go back, read the prophecies in the Old Testament. Read what Jesus said. Read what Paul says and what's in the book of Revelation. Let's take the time to go through it so we get an accurate understanding of what exactly has God said. What has he revealed? So we can understand it. Now, I've been resistant. People have been after me for a couple of years to talk about this. And I've been resistant because so often it just becomes a bunch of intellectual curiosity. Just, you have an opinion about the end times. I don't want that. And I certainly don't want it to become something that's divisive. People have their opinions and they argue about it. There've been, believe it or not, there have been universities and seminaries that have split over their opinions of these matters. I don't want to have something like that happen. But I want us to understand what God has told us, what he hasn't told us, and what he wants to do with what he said. How is it applicable to me? How does this affect the way I live my life? I don't want this just to be a bunch of intellectual curiosity. I want us to know how we can approach God. The powerful lesson that we get from Daniel's story is that God is a revealer of mysteries, and we can come to him and ask. We can come to him and ask. There's lots of mysteries that we have to deal with. Mysteries about our lives. Mystery about our purpose. It says in Psalm 139 that God knew us while we were still in our mother's womb, before we were formed. And he determined the days of our life. He's got a purpose for us. It talks about how he called Jeremiah from the womb. He called Paul from the womb. He's got a purpose. He's got a purpose for us. He knows our future, but he also knows what we're here for. Now here's another part that kind of scrambles your brain. God can accomplish whatever he wants, and he will, but he also has things that he intends that don't sometimes come to pass. It's possible to reject God's purpose. You say, well, wait a minute, Dan. Wait a minute. No, it says in the book of Luke that the Pharisees rejected God's purpose for themselves. Read the book. It's in there. So, there are some things that God's declaring to us that are going to come to pass without a doubt, but then there's other things that God gives us room to make choices. And it's a mystery. We don't understand how God does that. But that's our experience, isn't it? We make choices, we get consequences. We know other people that make choices and get consequences. God has calling a calling upon our life, we can respond to that calling and we can go with God. We can reject the calling. We can miss out on what God intends by our disobedience, and there are consequences of that. So I don't want us to think that this is a monolithic thing where God has determined every detail of our lives. That's not true. But God has a purpose for us, just like He has purposes in the world. And if we want to know, and if we are willing to follow, He will reveal, He will clarify, and He will bring things to pass. So this is a very practical thing. Just like God knows the future events of the world, God had purpose for Israel. God had made an offer to Solomon, or He made an offer to Jeroboam. Jeroboam's a great example. God said, if you'll follow me, your lineage will be like David's lineage. It will last forever. That was a legitimate option. God offered it to him. Did Jeroboam do that? No. What happened to his line? It was cut off. It's important for us to see these things, so we don't have unrealistic understanding about how this works. Read the book. Read the book. Know that God has information that He hasn't shared with us yet. Personal information for you and for me. We can come and ask because He's a revealer of mysteries. God has information He has not declared to us about the United States or about the destiny of the United States in world history. We can ask. And it's up to God. What is He going to share with us? What we get from this is that God is accessible, and He will give us what we need. It's like that story from Corrie ten Boom's life, when her father was talking to her about the danger of being caught by the Nazis because they were hiding Jews. She was afraid. And her father said, when I take you to the train station, do I give you the ticket at home, or do I give it to you on the platform of the train station? Well, you give it to me when I'm ready to board the train. He says, God's like that. He gives us what we need when we need it. There's things we don't know, things that God will tell us, things we need to ask Him to tell us. Let's pray.